A very good morning to all of you, all those who have joined in. We have a very special guest today, Miss Praveenalini, who is from Svatantra Montessori, House of Children. So before we get into the question answer session or interviewing her, I would like to tell you a little about her. So Miss Praveenalini is a graduate from Christ College with psychology and English literature as the core subjects. She had been working as a freelance tutor for foreign exchange students since her college days. Being a psychology student, she had to closely work with organizations specializing in aiding towards children who required special care. This is when she came across the term Montessori. Though she worked for an MNC for a short tenure, she knew in her heart that it was not her calling. She redirected herself towards her studies and sought to work with children. It was during an interview that she was guided towards Montessori education. She then knew where she was headed. She completed her Montessori training from Indian Montessori training course and has continued her journey ever since. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Ms. Praveenalini, and I'm sure that parents would love to know a lot more about Svatantra from you. So just to begin the session, I would just like to understand what was the thought behind starting Svatantra. As the name suggests, it of course means independence, but what was the thought behind the school and the name of the school?
The name of the school just happened to come by because I myself maybe in a way was looking to have independence and move towards having my own school for the children. And for me it really did matter that while growing up it was I went to a convent. So knowing a convent school, we know how restricted it would be, and so many things, so many ways in which we had to follow the rules. Everything fine. It had its own reasons. Everything was good that way too. But again, going to a college where it was run by sisters and missionaries, and there again you're further more bound to many things. So as it went, I realized that I was not at all exploring. So the whole part where we could explore, it felt like as if my own wings were trimmed along with me, my friends too. All of us were feeling that at a point of time. So then I realized I was very sure that going through this experience, I didn't want children to have that because exploration leads to so many things, and to explore, children are naturally curious. So to just have them go along with this curiosity, to let them explore, it needed that space of growth. So my first and foremost thought was like, I'm never going to send my children to a school where they have to be so strictly bound. I understand we learned a lot of morals that way, we learned a lot of many different things that way too, but with a little bit more of experience, a bit more of space to grow by understanding the children, I thought that what I wanted my children to have. And then it came to a point where this is what even my friends' children should have. So why not let every child have this? And the name Svatantra is just as it says, it is independence. But along with independence, it comes with responsibility. It comes with its limitations as well. So I wanted children to experience all of it with knowing where they themselves can draw these boundaries, and also have a hands-on experience. That's what I really wanted them to have. So it started from then. It started off small within myself for my children, which expanded further to having for all the other children. And I've not turned back since then. So it's just been the same journey for me.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So how long has it been since the school was established?
We established in March 2018, but I've been a Montessorian from 2009.
That's nice. That's great. And when you say that the school, of course, it stands for independence, how does that kind of, translate in the day-to-day, say, curriculum or what you do at school? Does the name really, kind of percolate down to the classrooms?
Yes, ma'am, it very much does. Because first and foremost, it's important to understand that Montessori education is just not a play way of learning, but is an experiential learning, which means to say that whatever we are providing with children, and all of the materials are also scientifically proven, and most of them are day-to-day regular activities which children perform, be it at home. So when we say freedom, and when the name goes by it, children are free to choose what they work with for that particular day. And we know that children, each child grows according to a stage of development. The growth matters. Just like a child starting from birth, from a suckling stage to a walking stage, he is growing according to the need of that particular moment. So in Svatantra also, the child goes and proceed further according to his stages of development. So we keep in mind the pedagogical growth of the child according to the age, according to the sensitive periods, all that keeping in mind, we go ahead and move with the child. So here, we as teachers, we are more like just the facilitators and guides, whereas the child leads us to what he is in need of. Freedom is a very important aspect for us in Svatantra.
That's nice. That's so great to hear, because schools, the name school kind of, probably in a child's mind, it comes as something with all rules and regulations. So when you say the word Svatantra and you talk about freedom, that would be pretty exciting for them as well. So that's great. So yes, my next question to you would be like, in Bangalore especially, there are, schools mushrooming in every nook and corner. And of course, especially preschools are there probably in every second or third lane. So how do you, or how does Svatantrata stand to make a difference, kind of wants to stand out amongst all those innumerables that are there? Why should a parent want to come to Svatantrata or not any other school?
First and foremost, it's for me important that parents are educated about the Montessori methodology. Because yes, every parent who walks in do have their own expectations from the school, from the children, especially from the children, right? So it is any parent who's coming in even for inquiry, the first and foremost is to understand what they understand about the Montessori methodology. So we educate the parents. So that being said, like I said, there are many schools which keep coming up under the name of Montessori education itself. There are many schools that follow a ideal or the true sense of Montessori methodology are a handful few, without having any blended version. So to follow the true Montessori methodology has been Svatantra's aim, and that is where we make a difference. So coming and finding about a house of children where we educate the parents, being the first, is the biggest difference for us. And from there, and we lead it on from there towards the children, and that's it. We just give them the wings to take off from there.
That's great, because I think that most of us didn't grow up in a Montessori way of learning. So I think it's good to make the parents understand, what Montessori is all about, because that gives them an understanding, and then they can move ahead. So that's important. And I think, I don't know how many times are you asked questions, but many times parents, they are confused about the boards. They, right from the time that the child is 4-5 years old, they have this question in mind that whether a school is an ICSE or a CBSE or IB, IGCSE. And, so what do you think about the boards? Do the boards really define a child's success?
Honestly, no. The boards do not define the success of the child. What the child learns by his hands, which he definitely, the three main aspects for me, for a child to look into is his hands, his mind, and his heart. If his hands have taken up something, his mind and heart are going to keep it close to him. So these kind of experiences are the ones which builds the success stories, not boards. So we have many boards. We have so many of us today who have passed out of different boards. Like I said, I myself came out of an ICSE board, but ultimately today I do not want my children follow that strict regime of it itself, because in a way, freedom is what is curbed. Freedom to learn, it's not in any other aspect, it's the freedom to learn. So when that space is provided by any board, if that is provided, then the success stories are going to be doubled. So board does not play a role. I think the entire learning experience where the child is going to learn to keep it to himself and to develop further upon, to grow upon, is where it will make a difference.
I think that's absolutely true, because boards actually, I mean, once you finish your school or college, it doesn't really matter. Nobody asks you in your workplace, what board have you studied from? That's absolutely true. So there are times I've seen that parents have this question, in their mind, saying that what is the best way? Of course, they tend to firstly compare their child, somebody who's, say, a 5-year-old, and their own child is also of the same age. They say that why is that child, why the child knows so much more, but my child is not able to know so much. So would you want to share a little with the parents on, is there any best way of learning for a child? How should the parent help the child?
When a child walks into house of children, the first and foremost thing I tell parents is, please do not intervene, because how a child learns is according to his understanding, his pace. Every child is different, just as how we are different from maybe our own sibling, we are different from our own sisters and brothers, and how we learn is different from them too. So that being said, how a child learns is according to his understanding, his capacity, and his pace of learning. Just because the child is not picking up on 3 stables today does not mean that he's not picked up or he's not learned in any other areas. Maybe he's really good with language, maybe for that example, maybe really good with other cultural activities. So this is where the child's interest or the child's strengths are being displayed. So when we say, in terms of comparison with, from where I've seen, parents normally compare a child in terms of the prime and core subject areas, which being language or which being arithmetic. But there are other areas, there are so many other studies which is around, because I have a child who is completely interested in veterinary, and he's only 6 years old, and he's always been inclined towards animals, insects, and all these, but he loves it. And the way he is inclined towards the way he studies nature is not the same with other children as well. So his learning is abundance in that. His understanding of it is a lot, which I feel has created empathy in the child, which we want every children to have towards one another. So these are the prime core things that have to be valued. So when the child is growing up, eventually, without any force that is being implied on the child, I see the child doing great with numbers, doing great with other language areas, which, yes, initially he may have not displayed that interest to, but they do meet their own expectations. If they learn to meet their own expectations, then what parents can see will be a bit more higher, just in comparison with a child going to a regular school at that moment. As a 5-year-old Montessorian child is far more experienced than a 5-year-old child that is going to a regular schooling.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I've seen children learning through Montessori way is, it's just amazing how they move from a different level to level and they learn. That's really nice.
And they don't actually, to be honest, they don't even realize that they are doing it. And I have a child who wants to be a geologist, and he's 7 years old. And I am awestruck, because at 7 I did not know anything about geology. So he goes around picking stones and pebbles, and sometimes he just cracks them to show me what is inside, how it glows and shines. Wow. I am awestruck with a 7-year-old who can tell me that, when I got to know geology only when I was maybe 18. It's a very far phase. And these are children who somewhere kind of start connecting more to the nature. That's what keeps them close that way, and environment plays the biggest role. And providing that environment for children where they can go ahead and they kind of realize, right, where they have to stand and what their interests are. I'm really glad looking at children taking these experiences than just going behind the books and other things. They're doing great in those areas too. I've just been just too happy looking at children bloom this way.
Now, at Svatantrata, are there any kind of activities? Of course, we talked about experiential learning and Montessori way is like that. But are there any kind of activities that as a school you all do?
I didn't follow that question.
So I'm talking about apart from whatever they are doing, the academic part, are there any kind of extracurricular, you can say, or other activities that the children are involved with?
Yes. So apart from the Montessori, so every morning we do start with a ritual. So the ritual itself is a different where it starts with shlokas, it starts with prayers, and they go ahead doing a couple of physical exercises, a few of the yoga stretches, all these to aid them in their physical movement. And just the way that we walk around the environment itself gives them the physical aspects and the attention for physical coordination. Leaving that aside, also we indulge in a lot of hands-on craft activities. To say handwork is a main aspect in a house of children, the same applies to us too. So for us, handwork is very important. So children get involved in doing small finger knittings, and they lead on to doing weaving. So hands, for me, handwork is very, very important, because what the hand does, the mind takes in. And so it's so connected that the children also enjoy it. They do a lot of sewing, stitching, be it that way. We go out to explore outdoor activities. And on other regular basis also, we have lots of other outdoor games that we play within our lawn and otherwise. And we have music inculcated in school. So children learn up with musical instruments they take, and they go ahead and explore with them. And yes, we are also going to be including music classes very soon. Now children are at a very young age, and after the entire COVID period, we are seeing them coming at that particular age group. They are just growing into where they'll explore into music from the following academic year. And apart from that, they do lots of many experiments, so which shows children how why does a balloon fill up with air. So all these kind of things, and many things that where they can hands-on look into it as well and experience it. Those activities are always, and which is part of the Montessori culture. It's not that it is given a separate attention to. It just happens on a day-to-day basis, on a regular basis. So as children are growing up, and when we move by the let's say by the scale of arithmetic, we do go out, we explore what it is to exchange and money and buy products. So all these experiences are given to them as they keep.
That sounds so interesting. So do you, in all these activities, do you expect parents also to participate to a certain extent?
No. If they want to, they've been involved. So yes, we do have a couple of handwork activities where we tell parents, if they also take it up, it'll be really nice. In the sense like for weaving, because along with children when they do it, and knitting, and finger knitting is something that I see even parents just thoroughly enjoyed it. And from just doing strings of finger knitting, parents have come up with doing hats and so many others. They've done scarves because they got hooked onto it along with the children. So that way, yes, if they want to be involved, they're more than welcome. And we do as we go forward, we do look forward for parents to involve themselves in these kind of.
So yes, Ms. Praveenalini, you were saying that the parents, of course, get on to the hand weaving and the knitting that children have been doing. So I would just like to understand one thing, that in Montessori way of learning, because at times, since parents are not aware, suppose some kind of homework goes home and the teacher has taught in a certain way, or children have kind of learned on their own in a certain way, way. Do you expect children to do the homework on their own, or how does it work where homework is concerned, or any kind of activity which has to be done at home?
Most of the times, homework as such do not go to children until and unless they're in the final year of preschool. So that parents are mostly not required to help, because by then children are very independent and these homeworks are also given to them.
Yes, so
Okay.
Miss Praveenalini, you were talking about the homework for the children.
Yes, normally there are no homework given to children. So the homework that children, I wouldn't say homework also, it's basically whatever they do in the class in school, they prefer to take it home on certain days, and we don't look into parents involved. So children are very self-reliant that way. They're very independent. And normally if they don't know anything, they would bring it back to school and ask us in class and find it out for themselves if they need to, and they go ahead and finish their work. So homework is unlike in-house schools that they carry so many books and so on and so forth. There is no such kind of method that happens from Svatantra. So the freedom is given to the child, choose if he wants to take it. So today he might take Kannada, tomorrow he might just take no, I'll take English and Kannada and Hindi. So those are the days when we are like, okay, you can choose two, because they are very excited to take these books home, show to their parents and show to their friends, because normally that is something that they don't do. They all finish it within the school and they leave everything in school and they go back. And yes, sometimes parents have come back asking us like, it would be nice if they could get some homework, because while they see so many children sitting in the evening and doing their homework, my son is still playing, my daughter is still playing or doing something with either sewing or things of that sort. So so normally we don't encourage homework, but the older children, when they are in the final year of preschool, they do take books home, how as and when they prefer it. They take it and they finish their work and they bring it. So parents are we did need a lot of their help during the online classes, but now no, the teachers go, the parents go ahead and let the children do their work, and children also don't expect that much help at all.
That's amazing. But then in this case, since, children are doing most of the things in the school itself, there are children, because everybody works at their pace. So how do you, as a school, help the children who are kind of lagging behind or are not able to, keep the pace at whatever the peer group is kind of moving ahead with? How do you handle such children?
So there are times when we do have to give them a little bit of extra attention. So normally in a house of children, it's always an individual attention based. So when we know if the child needs to catch up in a certain area, and if the child is inclined to wanting to do it, and there is no force factor, to be honest, there is no force factor. So maybe not this month that he or she is catching up with her friends, but by the following month, very likely they are close to it. They're close to it. So similarly, these children, in some way or the other, they do come up to where they are supposed to be. So when we take them forward, keeping in mind that we are not pressurizing the child that he should be in par with his friend, or with her friend. No, we don't look at it that way. So when we are inculcating concepts, ma'am, that's one thing that really applies to children. So when the concept is grabbed by the child, irrespective of what age the child is in, they have not shown that lack or lagging behind at all.
That's nice, and that's quite amazing. So, because there is usually parents do have this question that since probably when the children move to a higher grade, how does the transition between a Montessori way of learning and how does the transition happen between a child who's from a Montessori background into a regular, say, CBSE or ICSE kind of pattern? Does that happen smoothly, or is there some kind of a challenges?
So during the final year of their preschool in houses of children, we give them a period of transition. So so some parents would already know if the child is going to continue in another elementary Montessori school, or if the child is going to be moved to a conventional board schooling. So keeping both in mind, irrespective of the child going here or there, we take the child through a transition period where the child understands this is how it may be when he moves out of Svatantra. So they begin to get accustomed to it with us right here in Svatantra. And when they move forward, they do take it up. And children have always shown a lot of resilience. So though we have been, maybe not, maybe they will, or so when we do that, it's our anxiety, skepticism that befalls on the child. But whereas a child goes ahead and just blends and moves, accepts and takes forward. So I've had my older children moved into conventional schools and they're doing great. Initially, they were, you can say, they knew more than what maybe the other, most of their peers in the class knew, but that didn't hinder them from learning that way as well.
Yeah.
So the transition is quite smooth. It's very smooth, I feel.
No, absolutely. I think when you say that you talked about the child's resilience, that is very true. Like we may feel anxious or worried whether the child would be able to, move into the different kind of setting, but they do it seamlessly. Absolutely. Now, what age groups do you have in your school? Like, up to what grades and all do you have?
Currently, we are catering only to children in the preschool age group, so that we start from 2 years and 4 months onwards up to the age of 6 years and 6 months.
Okay.
So this is the age group we are, catering to at the moment. And yes, we do have childcare facilities, but again, childcare facility for working parents with the age of again 18 months onward, not below 18 months. So I strongly believe it would be great if the child could spend at least 24 months with the parents, but with working parents, we know the situations.
True.
So even then, 18 months would be at least a little better for the child as well.
So till what time you have? The child care facilities provided up to what time?
Childcare facility, we start at 8:30 in the morning,
Okay.
8:30 onwards up to 5:30 in the evening. So they again come in two batches. They don't stay throughout the day.
Okay.
So children who come in the morning batch leave by 12 o'clock or 12:30 maximum. And the next batch of children come post lunch and they stay until 5:30.
So we were talking about activities and what the children do, but do you also have some kind of annual activities in which parents are also invited every year that you do?
So all round the year, we have many things that keep going on. So we do have times when we involve the grandparents, and sometimes when we just have the parents. We have parents who visit us. We have a period of observation. So during this observation period, parents come, spend half an hour in the school, just like any other member. They sit, they observe what the children are doing, not just their child, but also other children, what they do, how they move around the environment, basically to understand what is in-house culture of a Montessori environment. So to understand this, all the parents are invited over a period of time. They come, they visit us, they stay with us, and we do involve parents with activities where we give them a day. Couple gets that day to choose. They can choose any activity that they want to engage the children in, so that the day is theirs. So that has given the parents a good understanding of the role of a teacher in the environment and what all other catering needs, that a child is demanding and what it is catered to. So all this exposure has given a lot of insight from parents to them also to know about any environment. I would say this helps parents in understanding the school's environment altogether, be it any.
Absolutely.
So we do that. And apart from that, we also put up events, ma'am. We put up school charity events annually. So where the children's work are exhibited, they are the complete showrunners. So what they make, they go ahead and they put it for sale, and whatever money that is consolidated during this fundraising event, they choose. So we do give it to to an organization, or we go ahead and we plan in such a way that the children tell us what is it that they want in the environment. So they are basically working, making the activities, chores, collecting to provide for their environment and take it forward for the school.
Wow.
So and we do have annual days, where annual programs where children are all together putting up performances and all that, during which parents are also involved in a very little, as much as they can, we can say.
Yeah, that's nice. It's really an amazing, thought of, teaching them charity and teaching them this kind of a value system right at a young age. It's so true about giving to others. So I would like to understand, of course, when usually apart from the boards, there is another question that is predominantly on the minds of parents when they come in for admission, and that's to do with the safety. So I'm sure it's Svatantrata also, you would be having a lot of safety protocols in place, but I would just like to understand that in terms of their physical, emotional safety, what is it that you have in place in your school?
So in Svatantra, the thing is we have a security in place. So we do have a person who will be there all round, along with the children taking care of their basic needs and all that. And we do have all the environment connected to CCTV cameras. So every bit of it is monitored through the cameras as well. So it's an all 24 hours security covered. So which anything happens, it's always there in my hand as well. And the adults are there in the environment to keep the closest of watches as well.
That's great. So suppose a parent says that, can I have the access to, sometimes parents do have those kind of requests or demands that, can I have the access to the live coverage of the classroom? So do you believe in that?
No, I don't. Because in and houses of children also, be it any place, like said, it's a house of children. So when we say a house has a space of privacy. So yes, so not just for one parent, not just for their child, we do have other children, we do have other parents, and privacy is a very big concern for many of us. It's very important as well. So if parents do have, and thankfully, there has never been a need where we had to take it forward. And I'm there throughout the time. For me, it's very important that not just I base my confidence or trust in technology or in a third person. So I'm always there in the environment. So for me, keeping that security at a closer watch is very, very vital. So keeping that in mind, privacy is also that much more important. So if at all the parent says, no, I want to look into the coverage, until and unless there is a due reason, we do not go ahead and give that. No.
I think that makes sense. And I think parents should appreciate that. And I'm sure once they put their child in your school, they have to have that trust. I think that's so important.
And thankfully, ma'am, for the last 5 years, we've not had any children. In fact, parents have been upset that the children have moved so quickly. They've settled so quickly. They did all this. Parents have been upset, but children have never gone back a day with any of these complaints, grumpy notes, or they've refused to go back from school. Parents have to generally wait outside, nothing less than 15-20 minutes, sometimes even an hour, because the children refuse to go out. So this has happened more frequently than anything else.
That's so amazing. That talks about the school and the wonderful work that you guys are doing. So now, our workforce, when it comes to our workforce, we talk about, teachers being the pillars of any institution. So I would just like to understand, how is it that you recruit your teachers, and is there any particular qualification that you look for before you take teachers on board?
Yes, I do. So we have Montessori trained adults themselves who pass out with the right certification. So there are select few places where the adults get trained from these centers and walk out. These are the adults that we rec. So that's very important that for me, the teachers are trained Montessorians, because when a trained Montessorian is walking into the environment, she comes with the passion, she comes with the understanding, and foremost, she comes with the understanding of the child psychology, which plays a very big role with any child. So these are primarily what I look into, and taking apart also their talents and skills skills into their workforce. Yes.
Okay. So then apart from somebody who has done Montessori, training, are there any other kind of trainings that you have? Like every school has their own sets of, values or systems that they want teachers to know and imbibe and then translate it into their classrooms. So is there some kind of an ongoing training also that you have for teachers?
Not on the campus as such, because the trained adults who come in with a thorough understanding of the methodology, at least the teaching methodology. Yes, the philosophy is something that I do imbibe upon. So we go by the philosophy, for which we do sit regularly. So every week we sit regularly to discuss about how we are going to imbibe this and how we have to work around the child, because we're working around each individual person. So it changes person to person. So we do constantly have these discussions, constantly have the records going on to work around this individual child in its own fashion. So this way, the training is regular. It happens post every afternoon the children leave. And apart from that, we do have other workshops as such. So as and when there are workshops conducted by my trainers and by my mentors, my teachers are encouraged to take part.
Okay, that's great. So, I have seen that there are times when, a child gets admitted and a parent doesn't inform you that the child is probably requires a little bit of special attention, and you discover it during the course of the year, say after probably 2-3 months. So, when is it? One is that, do you have any process in place to address the needs of such a child, and what is it, or what steps do you follow, to help the child?
Ma'am, during the time of admission itself, my first request to parents is come along with the child. So it takes us nothing less than an hour and a half to proceed with each parent. We do take that time. I do take that time because more than the child, the parent also needs to be within the system, which in the due course gives me also the opportunity, or my teachers the opportunity, to observe the child during this particular time frame, right? So not necessarily that the child is going to display anything immediately, but if there is anything that falls in display, I always take it up with parents. And it's not that it happens within the same one day's engagement with parents. The engagement happens at least over 2 meetings where we get a clearer understanding, and then I take it forward. And if there is anything, like said, over the period of time, if I do identify, I do have a support system in terms of other special educators that I take into consideration their advice, and accordingly, by the parents, let's say, permission, we go ahead and we see how we can assess the situation.
That's great, because parents really seek this kind of help from schools. So that's good that you have that support system in place.
Yeah.
So coming towards the end, I would like to know from you what, of course, you've done your literature, then you did your psychology, and I, of course, got to know a little about your journey, but what actually was instrumental, or what was the key factor in you moving or transitioning towards this field?
Like said, first and foremost, as a child, we parents were always the kind who would take the teacher's word of your child more into account than their own observation would be something. Initially, that was a scenario. So were my parents. So they would rather take the teacher's word of me and so forth. And we knew we came with a limited understanding between a teacher and a child as such. So that was my initial where I started off, maybe at a very young age, saying I don't want to have teachers like this, and then it came to I don't want to be a teacher like this, and then slowly it came to be like I don't want my children having teachers like this. So it transited from one to another. And when I moved up after my school, especially after the school, when I took up psychology, and then the inclination towards teaching was a bit more stronger. And when I started relating with students from different nationalities and so forth, we can see that the learning can be so much more different by person, by the culture, by the region, by the geographical aspect where they come from. So for all this, there was only one answer. It was to either bring the change or just make peace with the process of what was happening. So that is where it struck me that I wouldn't be going that path, and I wouldn't agree for that path to be taken up for the future coming. So it took me off from there.
Yes,
So
that's
it
so
was a long process.
but that's interesting. As long as it happens, that's why they say that be the change you want to see. So you decided to be the change. So that's great. So coming to my final question, of course, you've just onboarded our platform Skoolz, but how has your experience been so far? What do you feel about this platform? If I could have a little feedback from you.
With Skoolz has worked, it's given me an opportunity to, in fact, go ahead and express more, I would say, express more of myself as to, because normally we would do this on an individual basis. And this gives me a wider platform where I could be addressing a lot of people, a lot of parents, especially a lot of parents who want to understand the system. So Skoolz has given me that platform to display what a Montessori system is about. So that way, I'm really glad to have come across it and to be a part of Skoolz environment as of now.
Great.
And I've been engaging with a few of you, and it's always been pleasant engaging with each person, because each of you have come with a positive approach to what, yes, more like a positive approach to everything, into how it is, how we can go forward. That's really great. The ideology and the understanding philosophy, I would say, to bring the parents, to bring the educators close to each other, is where Skoolz is making the change.
I'm really glad that you feel that, yes, we are hoping to do this, and I'm sure we would be able to bring this change in a positive manner. And so at the end, I would really like to thank you for joining with us and sharing your thoughts. And I'm sure that parents would love to have their children come to your school, and we pray that your school really touches the pinnacles of success with so much of passion and so much of thought behind it. I'm sure it'll really do wonders. So thank you so much, and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for joining.